All right, this is the topic 2.6 and 2.7 review. So in 2.6, we use the quadratic formula. So for 1 through 4, that's what we need to do. You need to use this quadratic formula to solve for x. Okay, we want to make sure our quadratic equation is equal to 0. So we have everything on one side and 0 on the other, which we do. So now we can use our quadratic formula. So a is going to be 1, right? Because there's really a 1 written in front of x squared. B is going to be negative 15. And then C is going to be 7. Okay. And now we got to substitute everything in. So X is going to be equal to opposite of B. So I'm going to do negative times negative 15, which will end up giving me positive 15 in the end. Plus or minus 15 squared, negative 15 squared, minus 4 times 1, and then times 7, all over 2 times a, so 2 times 1. All right, so from here, we're going to get x equals, is going to be positive 15 plus or minus. Let's see, that's going to be 225. I would put all of this right here in my calculator. Okay. So that's going to be 225 minus 20 is going to be 197. Okay, 197. All over 2. All right. And then from there, I'm going to look to see if I can simplify square root of 197. So if I could find any perfect squares that go in there. So 4, 9, right? 3 squared is 9. 4 squared is 16. 5 squared is 25. 6 squared is 36. 7 squared is 49. 64. 81. 100. Those are my perfect squares. And if I check, no perfect squares are going to go into 197. So I can't reduce it anymore. All right, so my two answers then are simply going to be 15 over 2 plus square root of 197 over 2. Okay, and then x is 15 over 2 minus square root of 197 over 2. And those would be my two answers. All right, number 3 over here. I'm sorry, number 2 over here, right? We're going to have A is 3. B is 2. C is 1. And we're going to substitute that into our quadratic formula. So x is going to equal opposite of B. So it's going to be negative times positive 2. Plus or minus square root. We're going to have 2 squared minus 4 times A, which is 3, times C, which is 1. All over 2 times 3. Okay, this is going to give me negative 2 plus or minus. 2 squared is 4. That's going to be negative 10. Right? 4. Oh, negative 8. I'm sorry, negative 8. Okay, all over 6. Right? Okay, let's look at square root of 8, square root of negative 8. So we can split this up into square root of negative 1 times square root of 8. Okay, and then we can split the square root of 8 into the square root of 4 and the square root of 2, right? Because 4 is the biggest perfect square that goes into 8. Okay, square root of negative 1 is I, square root of 4 is 2, and square root of 2 is just square root of 2. So we're going to get 2i square root of 2. So when we come in here, we're going to do negative 2 plus or minus 2i square root of 2 all over 6. Okay. Then we're just going to divide each of those pieces by 6, right? So you have negative 2 over 6 plus or minus 2i square root of 2 over 6. And then we can reduce those. 2 divided by 6 is going to be 1/3. So our two solutions here are going to be negative 1 over 3 plus I square root of 2 over 3. Right, because 2 divided by 6 is 1/3. And then negative 1 over 3 minus I square root of 2 over 3. Be my two answers. All right, let's look at the next one. All right, A is going to be -2. B is going to be 10. And C is going to be -8. All right, on this one, I did notice these are all even. They're all 2 divisible by 2. So I could divide everything by 2 if I wanted, -2 if I wanted. But since I'm using the quadratic formula, I'm not going to do that. If I was factoring, I would want to divide by -2. But since I'm using quadratic formula, I'm not going to do that. Okay, but it's totally up to you. All right, so opposite of B, so that's going to be -10 plus or minus B squared is going to be 10 squared minus 4 times -2 times -8 all over 2A, so 2 times -2. So we're going to get -10 plus or minus. Put all this in your calculator. That's 100 minus 64, which is going to end up being 36. Right, so just put all of this in your calculator. You get 36. Okay, then over -4. All right. And then the square root of 36 is going to be 6. So this is going to equal -10 plus or minus 6 all over -4. So we're going to have x equals -10 plus 6 over -4. And we're going to have x equals -10 minus 6 all over -4. That's going to give me, let's see, -4 divided by -4 is going to be +1. -16 over -4 is going to give me +4. Okay, so our solutions here are going to be x equals 1 and x equals 4. All right, and then the last one here, A is going to be 3, B is going to be -1, and C is going to be 2. So we're going to get x equals negative times -1 plus or minus the square root of -1 squared minus 4 times 3 times 2. All over 2 times A, so 2 times 3. So I'm going to get 1 plus or minus. This is going to be 1 minus, let's see, 24, which is going to be -23. All over 6. 2 times 3 is 6. Okay, square root of -23. I'm going to split that into square root of -1 times square root of 23. Okay, and if we're looking at our perfect squares up there, 4, 9, 16, 25, and so on. Right, there's no perfect squares that go into 23, so we're just going to leave it. So it's going to be I times the square root of 23. So when I'm looking here, I'm going to do 1 plus or minus. Square root of -23 is going to become I times the square root of 23. And this is all over 6. So our two solutions here are going to be x equals 1 over 6 plus square root of 23 over I times the square root of 23. Right, over 6. Because you need to divide both terms by 6, right? It should be x equals 1 over 6 plus or minus I square root of 23 over 6. And then you have 1 over 6 plus I times square root of 23 over 6 and 1 over 6 minus I square root of 23 over 6. All right, so that's using the quadratic formula. All right, for the next set here, we're going to just use the discriminant. The discriminant is the stuff that's under the radical of the quadratic formula, which is b squared minus 4ac. If b squared minus 4ac is greater than 0, then you're going to have two real solutions. Okay, if b squared minus 4ac is equal to 0, then you're going to have one real solution. Okay, and if b squared minus 4ac is less than 0, meaning it's negative, then you're going to have two complex or two imaginary solutions. Okay, so if it's positive, if your discriminant is positive, it's two real solutions. If it's the discriminant's equal to 0, it's one real solution. And then if it's less than 0, if it's negative, it's going to be imaginary. So let's look at this one. A is 1, B is negative 15, C is 12. So we're looking at b squared minus 4ac. Okay, so it's going to be negative 15 squared minus 4 times 1 times 12. So you're looking at 225 minus 48 is going to equal, let's see, 225 minus 48. 23, right? 177. Okay, so 177 is greater than 0, right? It's bigger than 0. So since it's bigger than 0, it's a positive number. We're going to have two real solutions. Two real solutions. All right, same thing over here. A is going to be 3. B is negative 6. C is 4. Okay, so b squared minus 4ac. That's going to be negative 6 squared minus 4 times 3 times 4. So that's going to be 36 minus 48, which is going to be negative 10. So this is going to equal negative 10. And negative 10 is less than 0, right? So since it's negative, we're going to have two imaginary solutions. All right, same thing for number 7. All we're doing is finding b squared minus 4ac. So we're going to do a is 1, b is 12, c is negative 8. So we're going to do 12 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 8. This is going to end up being positive. It's 144 plus 32, which is 176. So since it's greater than 0, we're going to have two real solutions. Okay. Good. Okay. We are going to need calculator to load. Okay. Number 8 here. Margaret runs a business. This year's revenue is given by the function r equals negative 0.5x squared minus 200x. Can her revenue be at least $25,000 this year? Well, what we need to do is we need to substitute 25,000 in for r, right? In for the revenue. Okay. In order to find the discriminant or use the quadratic formula, the equation needs to be equal to 0. So I need to subtract 25,000 from both sides. So we're going to end up with 0 equals negative 0.5 x squared minus 200x minus 25,000. Okay. And now I just need to find b squared minus 4ac. So that's going to be negative 200 squared minus 4 times negative 0.5 times negative 25,000. Okay, that's going to be 400. Let's see, times 2, that's 50,000, right? I'm sorry, what, this is 40,000. And we can just use our calculators. Minus, right, 3 negatives, so it's going to be minus 50,000. It's going to give us negative 10,000. So since that is less than 0, b squared minus 4ac is less than 0, we're going to have two imaginary solutions. And since we have two imaginary solutions, we're going to say no. She cannot have $25,000 in revenue because the quadratic does not have a real solution here. All right, so that's 2.6. Now on to 2.7. So the first thing they wanted to do is solve by graphing. And then the second thing they want us to do is solve using substitution. So first thing we're going to do is solve by graphing. So x squared plus 5x minus 2. So I'm going to add a graph. I'm going to put in x squared plus 5x. Was it plus 2? Minus 2. Okay, I'm going to hit enter. All right, I'm going to hit tab. And I'm going to type in my second equation now, which is 3x minus 2. I'm going to hit enter. Okay. It doesn't really fit very well, so I'm going to go to zoom. I'm going to zoom out over here. Right, and now I can see my graph much better. Okay, I'm going to go to menu, analyze graph, intersection. I'm going to click to the left of the intersection, to the right. There's one intersection. There's a second intersection down here, so I need to do it again. Analyze graph, intersection. I'm going to click to the left of the intersection and then to the right. And I get negative 2, negative 8. So my two solutions here are going to be 0, negative 2. And negative 2, 8. Those are the 2 points where the line and the quadratic intersect. The blue's the quadratic, the red's the line. All right. Next, we're going to solve this by substitution. Okay, so let's go ahead. We know these are going to be the answers. Okay, but let's try and get them using substitution. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this 3x minus 2 and I'm going to substitute it in for y right here. So it's going to be 3x minus 2 equals x squared plus 5x minus 2. Right, in order to solve the quadratic, I need everything to be equal. I need it to be equal to 0. I need one side to be 0. So I need to subtract 3x from both sides. And I need to add 2 to both sides. Right? The whole point of subtracting 3x is that cancels out. The whole point of adding 2 is that cancels out, and that leaves me with 0. So then when I combine like terms, I'm going to have 1x squared. I'm going to have 2x, so plus 2x. And then it's minus 2 and positive 2. Right? So those are going to cancel out and leave me with 0. So it's just going to be x squared plus 2. Okay. From here, you can factor or you can use the quadratic formula. Okay, I'm going to do it both ways. The first way I'm going to do is I'm going to use the quadratic formula. So if we look at this here, A is going to be 1, B is going to be 2, and then C is going to be 0. So B is going to be 2, and then C is going to be 0. So when I use the quadratic formula, I'm going to have negative 2 plus or minus 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times 0 all over 2a. So 2 times 1 So I'm going to get negative 2 plus or minus, right? This is going to end up just being 4 minus 0 is just 4 all over 2. Okay, square root of 4 is 2. So I'm going to get negative 2 plus or minus 2 over 2. Okay, which leaves me with negative 2 plus 2 over 2, right? Which is going to give me x equals 0 over 2, which is 0. And then I have x equals negative 2 minus 2 over 2, which is negative 4 divided by 2 is going to be negative 2. Right? So now I have my x values. The only thing I'm missing are my y values. So I can pick either equation. I'm going to pick the second equation because it's much simpler. There's no squares in there or anything. So it's just going to be y equals 3x minus 2. I'm going to substitute in 0. Right? And I get y equals 0 minus 2 is negative 2. So this coordinate is going to be 0, comma, negative 2. Right? This is my x value. When I plug that x value in, substitute that x value in, I got y equals negative 2. So this is my coordinate, which is what we had on here, right? 0, negative 2. This is the point where they intersected. All right. The other one we have is negative 2. So we also need to do y equals 3x minus 2. Right? And it's going to be 3 times negative 2 minus 2, which is going to be negative 6 minus 2, which is negative 8. And so my coordinate is going to be negative 2, comma, negative 8, which again is exactly what we found over here. This intersection right here. 1, 2, negative 2, negative 8. All right, if you wanted to have done this factoring is actually pretty easy. We could have factored out an x, and then we had x plus 2. So then we get x equals 0, and x plus 2 equals 0. So then you get x equals 0, and x equals negative 2, which is what we got using the quadratic formula. All right, let's do the next one. So if I graph this, I'm going to do negative x squared plus x. So I'm going to hit tab, go back to the first one, delete it. I got negative x squared plus x plus 12. Awesome. I'm going to hit tab and go to this back to the second one. Okay, and the second one, I have 2x minus 8. And I'm going to hit enter. Okay, and you can see we have two intersections. I'm going to zoom out a little just to see it a little better. Okay, but you can see we have two intersections. So I'm going to go ahead and analyze graph. Intersection, I'm going to click to the left and to the right. Okay, I'm going to hit menu, analyze graph, intersection. I'm going to click to the left of the intersection and to the right. And those are our two answers, 4, 0, and negative 5, negative 18. Okay, so those would be our solutions by graphing. All right, now to do it by substitution. Okay, I'm going to take this 2x minus 8, and I'm going to substitute it in here. So I get 2x minus 8 equals negative x squared plus x plus 12. I need to make this equal to 0. So I need to subtract 2x on both sides. And I need to add 8 on both sides. This way, the 2x and the negative 2x cancel out. The negative 8 and the 8 cancel out, and we're left with 0. Okay, then we have negative x squared. X minus 2x is going to be minus x. And 12 plus 8 is going to be plus 20. From here, we can divide by negative 1 and then factor. If you like factoring, you can divide by negative 1 and then factor. But I'm just going to use the quadratic formula because that's what we've been doing here in 2.6 and 2.7. So A is negative 1, B is negative 1, and C is 20. So opposite of b plus or minus b squared minus 4 times a c. Okay, this is going to give me 1 plus 80, which is going to be 81. Oh, I'm sorry, all over 2 times negative 1. So we're going to get x equals 1 plus or minus. This is the square root of 81, all over negative 2. Right, we put all this in our calculator. Okay, then we get 1 plus or minus 9 over negative 2. So our answers are going to be 1 plus 9 over negative 2, which is going to give us negative 5. Right, 10 divided by negative 2. We're also going to have 1 minus 9 divided by negative 2, which is going to give us positive 4, right? Negative 8 divided by 2. Okay, and then to solve, we need to plug these in to find our y values. So again, I'm going to use that second equation here. So I'm going to do y equals 2x minus 8. So I'm going to do the first one, negative 5 first. 2 times negative 5 minus 8. That's going to give me negative 10 minus, that's negative 18. So my point is negative 5 comma negative 18, which is what we saw on the graph. Okay, the other one, 2x minus 8. That's going to be 4. So we'll do this one now. 2 times 4. That's 8 minus 8. That's going to give me y equals 0. So this coordinate is 4 comma 0. All right, and again, these are exactly the two intersections we found, negative 5, 18, and 4, 0 on our graph. Okay, if you factored, you could have divided everything by negative 1. So you get 0 equals x squared plus x minus 20. Then you need two numbers that multiply to negative 20 added to 1. That would have been 5 and negative 4. Right, so you get x plus 5, x minus 4. And then you set them equal to 0. You get x equals negative 5 and x equals 4, right? Which is exactly what we got over here. Okay, and then you would plug them in, find the coordinates. All right, let's do the last one here. X squared minus 2x minus 3. Okay, so I'm going to hit tab and go back up. Okay, x squared. I don't remember the rest of it. Minus 2x minus 3. Enter. Okay. And then 2x minus 3. So I need to hit tab and change this one to 2x minus 3. Okay, and we notice we have two solutions again. Again, and if you need to, you'd go to menu, analyze graph, intersection, click to the right, click to the left, and then do it again for the other one. Click to the left, click to the right. But you see 0, negative 3, 4, 5. Our quadratic is going to intersect that line at 2 spots. All right, but let's do it by substitution. Okay, so I'm going to substitute in 2x minus 3 here. All right, so we get 2x minus 3 equals x squared minus 2x minus 3. Okay, we're going to subtract 2x from both sides. We're going to add 3 to both sides. It's going to give me 0 on the left, minus 4x on the right here, and then those are going to cancel. So again, I think factoring is the easiest way here, right? We could just factor and do x, pull out an x, and then you get x minus 4. And then you can say x is equal to 0, x minus 4 is equal to 0, which means you get 0 and 4. But if you want to stop here and use the quadratic formula, we can do that. Opposite of b plus or minus, so opposite, so a would be 1, right? If you're looking at this, b is negative 4, and c is 0. So that's negative, negative 4, plus or minus the square root of negative 4 squared minus 4 times 1 times 0. Okay, anything times 0 is going to be 0. So we're going to be left with 4 plus or minus the square root of 16 all over 2, right? This should be x equals. So we get x equals 4 plus or minus 4 over 2. Square root of 16 is 4. It's a perfect square. So then I get x equals 4 plus 4 over 2, which is 8 over 2, which is 4, right? Which is what we got over here. Or it's got to be 4 minus 4 over 2. 4 minus 4 is 0. And 0 over anything is going to be 0. Okay, so we get our x's. The last thing we need to do is find the y value. So y equals 2x minus 3. I'm going to substitute in 0 first. Y equals 2 times 0 minus 3. It's going to give me negative 3. So my solution here is 0, negative 3. Okay. And the other one, y equals 2x minus 3. I'm going to substitute in 4. 2 times 4 minus 3, which is going to give me 5. So my other solution is 4 comma 5. All right, which is what we had on our graph. Okay, the last two here, interpret the results. So in business, the break-even point is XY, at which the graphs of the revenue and cost functions intersect. This is the point where the revenue and the expenses are equal. The business is not losing money, but it's not making money either. For one manufacturing company, the revenue from producing X items is given by the function y equals 2x plus 12, and the cost by y equals negative x squared plus 10x plus 5. In the thousands, find all the break-even points. So we're basically finding where they intersect. So the easiest way to do this is going to be use the calculator. So we're going to put in these two functions and see where they intersect. All right, so negative x squared plus 10x plus 5. So negative 10, was it 10x squared? No, it's just negative x squared plus 10x plus 5. Okay. And then the second equation, whoops, shoot. Okay, I don't know a better way than this. Sorry. That's frustrating. I'm sure there's an easier way, but I don't have time to figure it out right now. Okay, second equation. 2x plus 12, so we're going to change this to 2x plus 12. Okay, and I need to change my window, so I'm going to zoom out. So let's see. Right here. Okay, and I have my two solutions, 114 and 726. Okay, so 114 and 726. 1 comma 14, 7 comma 26. Right. So what this means, if we're interpreting the results here, so x, right, x items, and y is the revenue. So for yeah, so the functions are the revenue from producing X items. So the Y is the number of items. Cost of producing X items. So this is confusing because I don't think the X here is referring to the X in the equation. Right? It's just saying how many items, right? So the X value represents the amount of money we're spending, right? The point is the revenue and the expenses are equal. The business is not losing money, but is not making money either. For one manufacturing up the revenue. So Y should be our revenue. Right, we have our graph. Right, and we had our line. We have our graph. We have our graph right here. Okay, so the company breaks even when it spends $1,000 to make and sell 14,000 items. Okay, so the X is going to be the amount of money, and the Y is going to be the number of items. So our solution here, right, for interpreting our results, right, is going to be that the company breaks even when it spends $1,000. $1,000 to make and sell 14,000 items. Because remember, these are thousands. So the X here, $1,000 for 14,000 items. Right. It also breaks even when it spends $7,000 to make 26,000 items. Those are the 2 points at which it breaks even. All right, the last one here, again, we're just going to graph and find the points where they collide. So they're skating. Let's put these equations in really quick. Okay, negative 2x, or negative 2x squared plus 18x. So negative 2x squared plus 18x. Right, and then tab, the second one, is going to be negative 2x plus 32. Negative. Okay, I'm going to zoom in so I can see it better. Okay, and then those are my two intersections, right? And if you needed to do them again, right, menu, analyze graph, intersection, you click and click. Menu, analyze graph, intersection, click and click. So 228 and 816 with the coordinates where they intersect.